Hello and welcome to this, the first edition of Heard and Seen, which I've just started off really to explore and share love of music. I've been Instagramming for a number of years under the same name and thought this would be a natural extension, and thought we could use the extra time at home we've got at the moment to reach out via YouTube. But just as we start, let's just get our personal spacing right, and we're looking pretty good. So where do we start? Well, I thought in this first episode the best place to start would be at the beginning, which is when you first start exploring music beyond the singles or radio songs that you hear, and start getting into albums and finding those deeper cuts on those albums, and exploring records as a complete body of work by artists. And what prompted this was I was at a famous market here in Melbourne in Australia, called Camberwell Market, which happens every Sunday, and there's lots of record stores, there's lots of clothes stores, and my 14-year-old daughter loves to go, and I often take her along, and while she's looking at clothes I will have a rummage through all the record stores. Anyway, I'd been having a look around and found a few things, and she came up to me and said, "Dad, have you heard of a record called Astral Weeks by Van Morrison?" And I thought, well, yes, I have, but where have you heard it? And it turns out, through Spotify, it had been proffered as a suggested album. And as it happens, I had just seen a stall which was selling a very nice copy of the first Australian release of it. So I said, come with me. So we went off and we negotiated a price, and here it is. So she's used her own money to go and buy this, and so she's really enjoying that stage where you start buying bodies of work for yourself. So I thought I'd reflect on some of those early albums where I went through the same process, and it was really around 1979, 1980, that sort of era, when I was sort of 12, 13, showing my age unfortunately, but that's really when I started discovering albums for myself. So that's what we'll do today, and here we go. Like many people my age, my early purchases were on cassette. That was the most accessible medium for us, and a lot of us had these flat tape recorders that the tape popped out of the top and just a mono speaker on top, and that's how we played our music. And one of the first albums I bought on double cassette was The Clash, London Calling. This was just attitude all the way, with Paul Simonon guitar being smashed on the cover, which is on a contrast to the cover that it mimicked, which was one of the early Elvis albums. This came off the back of punk, and was really a lot more sophisticated than what had gone before in the punk realm, but it still had lots of attitude, easy to sing along choruses. The title track, London Calling, is immediately recognisable, but lots of great deep cuts on here. Clamp Down, Coca-Cola, Brand New Cadillac, all fantastic stuff. Lots of reggae and ska influences on here, as well as pop and rock. And what was not to like really for a 12-13-year-old standing in a classroom, jumping on chairs and singing along to this classic stuff, and an all-time classic album. Another album I had on cassette, but later bought on vinyl, was this ELO's Discovery, and what a fantastic album this is. The lead single was Don't Bring Me Down, which was an absolutely massive sounding song, which absolutely grabbed your attention. I think my sister had it on 7-inch single, which I've probably got somewhere. But again, lots of deep cuts, amazing arrangement, great production. Sounds so much better on vinyl than it ever did on cassette. And there's a particular track on here called Last Train to London, which I found very evocative, and that lyric of Last Train to London, just leaving town, really conjured up sort of romantic images of going off and exploring new places, and heading back to London late at night, which seemed a very long way away at that time when I was living in the country. But this album's always stayed with me. It's a terrific album, and probably the only ELO album that I have, but well worth exploring, and a classic of its type. So at the risk of pandering to a cliche, the next album I'm going to put out is Pink Floyd The Wall. There is a reason this is a cliche. It really is an incredible piece of work. I think what grabbed me was watching Top of the Pops, and I hadn't heard of Pink Floyd before when this came out. And the video of the kids on Another Brick in the Wall, walking down the alleyway with that amazing lyric that any school child would relate to at the time, and the fantastic succinct and melodious guitar solo from Dave Gilmour. That really grabbed me, and it took a while to, I suppose, get to grips with this whole album, because it's quite a big body of work and a double album. Really, it's Roger Waters' album, but the guitar playing from Dave Gilmour on here, in particular Comfortably Numb, is incredible. What an album. And there's a reason that they keep, Roger Waters keeps resurrecting this to tour. This is a 1979 pressing, which sounds fantastic, but I think some of the new reissues are also really, really good. I remember wanting to go and see this tour at the time, but I was too young and not allowed to go up to London to see it, which is something I kind of regret, but understand my parents' decision at the time. But yeah, a wonderful piece of work, and very divisive to Pink Floyd fans, but it did win them a lot of new fans as well. So for example, after this, you start to go and explore the back catalogue before this, which was quite incredible, and go on to buy some of the releases after this. So an amazing record, still another all-time classic, Pink Floyd The Wall. The next album I'm going to put forward for you is a little bit different. This is Organisation by Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark. I got this, I think, for Christmas 1980 from my parents. The single Enola Gay had been in the charts and was very catchy, so that's what grabbed me. But when you looked at it closely, it was a catchy, melodious song about the dropping of a nuclear bomb. So, go figure. But it did give a clue as to the darkness and broodiness of this album, as does the cover. It's quite a bleak cover. But there's a couple of bright spots on this, Motion and Heart and The More I See You are very catchy tunes, but there's a lot of brooding, moody stuff on here as well, which took a little while to grow on me, to be honest. But once it did, it really got its hooks into me, and I suppose it taught me that a song or an album doesn't have to be upbeat to make you feel at peace and make you feel uplifted. And this has certainly become a warm blanket album over the years. This is my original copy from 1980. You can see the love on the cover, a little bit of wear and tear, but a fantastic album, a great body of work before they really became super commercial, and well worth exploring. And once it gets into you, it will stay with you a long time. So that's Organisation by Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark. Now, the last album I'm going to put forward is Rainbow Down to Earth, which was from 1980. This album I probably bought in 1981 when I got to senior school and people were buying and selling records. And someone put this one up for sale, and it was on a very striking clear vinyl, which I'd never seen before. So that kind of grabbed my attention. I knew the singles, Since You've Been Gone and All Night Long. They'd been on the radio, and there wasn't a lot of hard rock on the radio at that time, so they certainly stood out. This was offered at £1.50, so I thought I'd take a chance and buy it, and boy, it was a great investment because it absolutely, the energy of this album and the playing on it just blew me away. And the amazing guitar playing by Ritchie Blackmore, enormous drum sound from Cozy Powell, and the very much shouty but ear-catching vocals of Graham Bonnet. So this one was what you might call a gatekeeper album, because I looked at these guys and thought, I don't know anything about them. They look pretty cool. I need to know more. So it really led me to explore their back catalogue and get into Deep Purple, a lot of the offshoot bands, and other 70s classic rock. So this album really gave me a love of rock music, which has stayed with me to this day and kept me very young at heart anyway. And I don't listen to this particular album so much these days. It does sound a bit dated now, but and to be honest, there's probably better Rainbow albums, but I still have a lot of affection for this record because of the doors that open for me. So there it is, 5 records that really got me kick-started into a lifelong love of music, and I'd love to hear what yours might be, whether it be 5 or less. If you'd like to maybe put in some thoughts of your own into the comments field below, that would be terrific, or email me at heardandseenmusic@gmail.com. It'd be great to get some dialogue going, and I'd love to explore some of your favourite records for myself. In the meantime, stay safe, stay sanitised, enjoy the music, and I look forward to seeing you next time.